I can't let you in there. The roof's about to collapse. I can't let you in there. The roof's about to collapse.
Baby! Look! Up there! Save my baby, please!
Oh, my baby. God bless you, Spider-Man. Bless you.
There he is! Don't let him get away! Hold it! Hold it right there. You're under arrest. I'm taking you in.
Oh, my God, there's somebody still up there.
I'm going. I'll be here when you get back. Not coming back, Chief. Go! Go! Where are you? Where are you? I'm gonna get you out of here. It's okay.
Hey kids, welcome to the Far Out Podcast, your late night college of useful life knowledge. How you doing today? Well, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. This is the first one of the new year, so happy new year to all. And with that in mind, that means that I haven't talked to you since last year. And also, with it being the transition from 2024 into 2025, that means that this joke has never been more relevant.
Today's first lesson will be on turning.
24.
Hey, Patrick.
What?
I thought of something funnier than 24.
Let me hear it.
25.
So, yeah, that's how we're starting off the new year with the podcast. Two cringe, but also equally funny jokes, in my opinion. So, there's that. But I want to do some housekeeping first. Again, I want to say thank you to all who listen. I really appreciate it. I'm late to the podcast game, but I feel really embraced by all of you, and I just really appreciate the support. This has been a lot of fun for me, and I hope it's a lot of fun for you. Tonight, we're going to talk just a little bit about some food, because I picked up some unique chips that I'd like to discuss, and then also alongside these uniquely flavored chips, I have a uniquely flavored beer I'm nursing tonight. This is a Founder's Porter, which, according to the label, is supposed to taste like roasted coffee with notes of graham cracker sweetener. And it's good. I like it. It's dark. It's heavy, but I like it. So, there's that. So I recommend this Founder's Porter. Pretty gosh darn good. And the chips in question, I won't bury the lead too deep here. They are ketchup flavored chips. and I'll talk about that in just a few minutes here. But yeah, we're gonna hit some topics that I've previously talked about, being TV and some new movie stuff. But I want to get some of this stuff out of the way because I'm gonna blow through a few of these in just a few minutes. But let's start off with Creature Commandos. As you guys know, I have a love-hate relationship with this series. Mostly hate. Sadly, it's like a 70-30 split because again, it's not very accessible. Like I can't show it to my mom. It's crude and it's all over the place. But it's the start of this new storytelling, container for DC Comics and their heroes, and I want to know what's happening. I want to be up to speed on all that stuff because this is the appetizer to the new universe, even though it really kicks off with the upcoming Superman movie, which is crazy to think about, by the way. Now that we're in 2025, we're in the year of Superman. Oh, I can't wait. That movie's going to be incredible. Let's take another look at that trailer quick.
Superman.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff, baby. How can you not like that? I mean, that if that movie is not good, I will simply cry tears. But I think it's going to be tremendous, and even if it's not, we'll always have this beautiful trailer to come back to. So there's that. You got to find the light in the darkness. But no, I think James Gunn's going to do a great job with that. That thing looks like it's right up my alley. So I can't wait. July cannot get here fast enough. But anyway, well, I could wax poetic about Superman all night long, and believe me, I will as we get closer to July. Just gonna touch briefly on Creature Commandos because I was 2 episodes down, and I watched them back to back right before I hopped on the mic to record, so I'm all caught up. I was not a fan of these 2 episodes. I actually wasn't a fan of the previous three, 4, 5, and 6, because I just thought they were too weird, too gross, and whatnot. But in episodes 5 and 6, they gave us some very brief hints at Batman. They showed the supervillain Clayface, which is cool, and perhaps a showing of their hand a little bit because in a previous episode of the podcast, I talked about how a Clayface standalone movie was announced to be part of the new movie slate for DC, and now just after that announcement is the episode of when Clayface appears in Creature Commandos, so that was pretty cool. He looked good. He's got a pretty unique design, so I liked his inclusion there. They also showed off some ground shots, like some establishing shots of Gotham, which was nice to see. That kind of had a greenish color tone to it, kind of like the Matrix. So that was interesting. And then we actually got a shot of Batman, and I'll throw that picture up here for you guys to look at. Not obviously a great shot. It's very silhouetted. There's not much detail in this, but I think that's because James Gunn and the crew at DC, I don't think they know exactly what they want out of their Batman. I don't know if he's going to have a black suit, a gray suit, a blue suit, a combination of all three. I don't even know if they have an actor yet. They might have an actor in mind for Batman. I've heard that the new Batman could actually be Alan Ritchson, who is the star of Reacher. And if you look at this shot, and though this is a cartoon, it's just a drawing, and it's not a very clear shot at that. This Batman, in my opinion, is quite beefy. He's quite thick. So he looks like he's really been hitting the gym pretty steadily there. So maybe they could have someone as big as Alan Ritchson fill out that suit, because there's talks that Robert Pattinson, who is our current Batman right now, there's been conversations that perhaps he could segue into the new DCU under James Gunn, that they kind of want to push him in. I don't think they will do that. I think they like the idea of having separate storylines for their Batmans. But even if they did, they'd have to kind of adjust this picture a little bit because Robert Pattinson, while he got big for Batman, he's still a pretty slim and lean Batman in his own movie, which is fine. But again, if this shot from Creature Commandos is meant to give us our first taste of Batman and what's to come, then they're gonna have to find someone who can fill out these dimensions here. I don't think that's Pattinson, so maybe it could be someone bigger. Maybe it could be Mr. Reacher himself. I think he'd make a good Batman, but we'll see. But while I thought Creature Commandos as episodes kind of fell on their face, I'm thankful for these Batman bits because as we get further along in the show here, I'm going to talk about how there is going to be an apparent lack of Batman in our near future. So that's wonderful. That's what I like to hear, of course. But Creature Commandos, love-hate relationship with it. They were smart as a studio to push this out first because they knew people like me would, lap it up. And so I've been watching it just to stay up to date with the new DC universe because I want to be connected and all that stuff. But, so like, had they dropped this later in their slate, had this been like Project 3, 4, or 5, I probably would have passed. Honestly, I don't think I would have watched it, but they knew that people like me wanted a taste, and so they gave us a taste, and boy, it tastes kind of sour sometimes. So, Creature Commandos, not really feeling it. Heard it got renewed for a season 2. Good, I guess, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if I'll watch it. That remains to be seen. But and there's one episode left in the season. The current season right now, there's 7 episodes total. Just watched episode 6, so there's one left. I'm thankful to be done with this. I'm glad it's going to go away for a bit, and maybe after we get a few movies under our belt, maybe I'll go back to Creature Commandos. But I could use a break from these guys. So please bring on Superman again. Go watch that trailer again if you haven't. Gosh, that thing's so amazing. I'm not going to play it again, but like, you ever need a palate cleanser in the middle of the day? Just throw up that trailer. All right. Anyway, let's get out of some stuff that I did not like and move into some stuff that I did like. We'll flip flop in those genres here. Keeping it with TV, excuse me. The Agency just got caught up on that, and that continues to be amazing. Really pristine television. It was a good episode. Nothing crazy, but it was good. The best part that I thought came from that episode was the continuing storyline of the female operative. Even though in the last episode I watched, she got freaking battered around by that one dude, giving her that training lesson, and then the episode ends with her beginning a sexual relationship with that guy. So again, she's just kind of dating her abuser, which is not good. It's not good, Chief. But then in this episode, they follow up on that. Actually, her handler is like, so I noticed you started dating Phil, or whatever the heck his name is. And she's like, no, we're not dating. Did he say we were? And her handler's like, I don't know. And then the female operative is like, well, we're just doing the dance with no pants and whatever. And her handler is like, well, you need to cut that crap off because like it's not good. You can't have relationships in this line of work. You're only going to get tangled up in it. We need you to be a clean slate. And the female operative is like, relax. I'm not emotionally attached. It's all good. Let's continue our training. So despite me saying I like this bit of the episode, that part there I didn't like because, again, it just kind of reemphasizes this emotional dissonance that's happening, which, for most people watching it, they're going to be like, yeah, whatever, it's all just meaningless and whatnot, but it's like, come on. It's like, you do everything else so right, but you're really missing the boat on these human emotional bits and whatnot. But anyway, I digress, because I do like this episode. I do. I really do. And the reason why is because right after this conversation is happening, well, actually, as the conversation's happening, they're doing weapons training. And her handler is expressing how when she gets to Tehran in Iran, she's not going to be armed in any way because her job is to play student, it's to play tourist, to be ingratiated into the people of Iran and whatnot. So she's not going to be armed because she has to be as neutral as possible. But they want to give her familiarity with the weapons that she could find in that environment should she go overseas. And so they're giving her specific training as to like what the cops would have for their sidearms, what military personnel would have for their primary weapon systems. And I thought that was real great. Again, I think that this show has a really good tech advisor, and that's very practical thinking, because while this is a spy series, for a spy to go covert, you're going to have them be a gray man of sorts, someone who can just blend in completely, meaning that even for attack and defensive purposes, you're not going to give them James Bond like gadgets. You're not going to give them a briefcase that can transform into a bomb, and whatnot. And they won't even give you a firearm because you're completely neutral. But they want her to have expertise in the tools that she could have over there, that she could pick up herself and find, which I thought was really good, really practical. And that when they were having this conversation during this training bit, I was like, yeah, that's smart. So again, the agency on Paramount Plus continues to just be incredibly smart, really good, riveting television that also pulls on threads in real life, real world conflicts. Because the last little bit that I'll say about this episode is that the plot line of an American spy that kind of went rogue is continuing to unravel. And in this episode, they have determined that the spy who quote unquote went rogue was actually captured and is being held in Ukraine by the Russians. That he's currently on the Ukrainian front lines. I don't know if he's just a prisoner, if he's actually being forced into that conflict as a soldier. But there's talk that the Russians want to get him out of Ukraine and back to the Kremlin to be presented to the Russian president, which we can assume is Vladimir Putin. They don't name drop him, but in the previous episodes, the agency did name drop the real president of China, Xi Jinping. So if this is if this TV show is set in the real world, revolving around real conflicts with real world leaders, I would assume that they would follow suit with Russia as well. Which again, this throws in this kind of creepy but also very interesting factor. The fact that this show is set during active live conflicts is very interesting. But just as how the show has a good tech advisor, as I said before, they clearly have a good geopolitical advisor because they get a lot of stuff right, and also their mentions of China as well. So I really appreciate the agency for that as well. What's funny, before I transition off this topic, is that the characters we follow, Michael Fassbender and his own handler, they're briefing, the Secretary of Defense, I believe, and they're briefing other members of the White House and some other important personnel. I can't remember all who's there, but they're having a big meeting. They're talking with these important people, saying this is the situation. He's in Ukraine. Russia has him. We got to get him out. How are we going to do that? And someone during this meeting is wondering, well, should I brief the president? And someone turns to the woman and is like, no, like, don't brief the president. Like, he doesn't need to be aware of this, because they're trying to keep it low profile. But I just found it funny that, again, if this show has to do with real world leaders, that would mean that for America, the current president for the show would be President Joe Biden. And just the fact that they're like, no, don't tell the president. Like, there's no need. We'll handle this. That might have been a little bit of a dig at the current president, Mr. Biden, Moldy Muppet McGee, as I call him sometimes. And he's probably, at the time of this recording, he's probably turned in for the night. So, yeah, I'm taking shots, but you know what? Shooter's got to shoot. So there's that. But yeah, the agency, real good stuff. Recommend on Paramount Plus. And Creature Commandos on Max. I think you could skip it, unless you're a big nerd like me. And if you are, then proceed with caution, because that's a real mixed bag there. So yeah, some good TV, some bad TV. But anyway, moving on. With this beer I have here, Like I said previously, I got this bag of ketchup chips, ketchup flavored chips, which are not common in America, to my knowledge, but they are common in Canada, in the country of Canada, home of Justin Trudeau.
I will never apologize for standing up for an LGBTQ.
And my friends and I went up to Canada, went to Winnipeg. Fun place, great food, there's good weather. Went to a planetarium, which was fun. Shout out La La Land, which I intend to eventually talk about in great detail at some point on this podcast because I love that movie. Plus, that was recommended to me via a friend, and so I'm definitely going to dive in on that. So anyone out there who would like me to go deep on a topic, whether you see me in real life or you want to tweet at me or you want to drop a comment here on YouTube, if you have anything you want me to talk about, please don't be afraid to reach out. So yeah, let's see what I can do with that. But yeah, La La Land, eventually I'll talk about that. But yeah, we went to Canada, and up in Canada, you know, they really prefer these chips that taste like ketchup, the condiment ketchup. And so I bought some and I tried some, and they're really good. They're really good. They taste just as how French fries dipped in ketchup would, which sounds incredibly simple as I say it out loud because, you know, they're potato chips. You know, French fries are potatoes. You know, so you get the same flavor as you would dipping a French fry into ketchup. And so while people might think, ugh, ketchup and chip flavor, that's gnarly, I assure you, it's not. It's quite tasty. And dang it, I wish I would have bought more than one bag because I'm kind of going through these pretty quick here. But yeah, Canada, you know, known for their maple syrup and known for their ketchup chips, apparently. So there's that. There's another thing I like. Oh, okay. Now I gotta transition back into something I don't like. This has to do with Batman. And I love Batman, don't get me wrong. But, well, we got a good taste of Batman and Creature Commandos. We got some bad news on the Batman front here. And that's that the Batman Part 2, with, as I previously mentioned, Robert Pattinson in the titular role, has been delayed again to 2027, meaning we have to wait 2 more freaking years for that thing. That thing was supposed to come out this year in 2025, but writer, director, producer Matt Reeves has been dropping the ball, so that thing got pushed back to 2026, and then now 2027. It's been delayed at 2 full years, which is a real big bummer, because that first one, Part 1, came out in 2022. So now, as long as this thing doesn't get delayed again, and who knows at this point, but even if it doesn't, that means that we will wait now over 5 years, 5.5 years, for the Batman Part 2 to come out, which is a real shame, because the Batman with Robert Pattinson, Twilight Boy himself, was really, really good. It's a great crime epic, and gave us one of the best Batmobile chase scenes we could ever possibly ask for. And yeah, that movie is pretty gosh darn good here. So if you haven't watched The Batman in a while, you're gonna have to revisit it, because that's all we have to tie us over on that Batman front.
Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart. Hear everything they say, ain't you?
Maybe we're not so different. Who are you under there?
I'm vengeance.
What's black and blue and dead all over? You.
But even looking towards the future, going back to the DCU under James Gunn, his Batman, because now there's this idea that there's going to be two separate Batmans, which is fine by me. So we got Robert Pattinson over in Matt Reeves' playground, and then we got James Gunn's Batman over in his playground under the DCU banner. He's going to be in a movie called The Brave and the Bold, which is going to feature Robin. And supposedly this movie has been delayed or facing some difficulty getting off the ground. The director, Andy Muschietti, who has directed previous films like the It movies with the killer clown, and also the Flash movie that came out, I believe that was that 22 or 23? Gun to my head, 2022. And that movie was just okay. That movie was just fine. Funny enough, though, that movie, I'm pretty sure, got him the gig for The Brave and the Bold, Andy Muschietti. Because in the Flash movie, it deals with time travel and the multiverse. And so that movie features 3 Batman? 4? 3 or 4? I can't remember. There's definitely 3. There is 4 because they do that flashback scene. Yeah, so Andy Muschietti made this movie called The Flash, which stars The Flash as the hero of that movie. But then his team is made up of Bat people, who are donning the cape and cowl. You got Ben Affleck as his Batman. Then you got Michael Keaton coming back after many decades of being out of the role. And then spoiler alert for The Flash, which was just okay. At the very end there, the last stinger for that movie is that when the Flash does all his time traveling, he resets part of his own universe. And the Batman in his world now is played by George Clooney. So they got Mr. Batman from the Batman and Robin era, the one with the rubber suit that had nipples on it. So they brought back that Batman because sure, why not? You can never have too much Batman, and boy, did that Flash movie really cram that envelope full. And you can never have too much George Clooney. That guy's a national treasure. Anyway, Andy Muschietti, known for directing some killer clown movies, as well as a Flash movie that featured many Batmans and also Flash. He's supposedly going to be directing one of the newer installments of the Batman under James Gunn. Again, previously mentioned, it's titled The Brave and the Bold. But that has supposedly been facing some difficulties. As he mentioned on a podcast, the director himself said that he might make another movie in between doing The Brave and the Bold, which means that thing is probably at least 4 years away, if not farther. James Gunn did come out on Twitter and said that it is not delayed. He's just awaiting the script to be finalized. So I don't know. There's at least 2 Batman movies in production somehow, some way. Sounds like they both need their scripts to get finished. One of them has a release date, 2 years away. One of them does not. But again, with the upcoming DC movies that we have on the calendar, we got Superman this year. We have Supergirl next year, which I'll talk about a little later. Then we got Clayface as well, also in 2026, I believe. Yes, we got 2 next year. And then maybe we'll have 2 Batmans in 2027. I doubt it, but could happen. But yeah, that little bit in Creature Commandos might be all the Batman we're going to get for a while. So, sorry, kids. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. But again, Superman, Supergirl, they're coming. We don't have to wait very long. A new era is on the horizon, baby. So, so sorry to hear about Batman. But, again, good things are coming. Hope springs eternal. All right. Anyway, moving on. I saw some new movies. I'm late to the party on reviewing them because they've been out for a while and whatnot, but whatever, I'm going to talk about them. I saw 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies in 2 days. I rewatched the first Sonic, which is really good. Really enjoyed that.
I'm Sonic, a little ball of super energy
in an extremely handsome package. On my planet, people were always after my powers. So I came to yours. It gets a little lonely, but that's okay. I am living my best life on Earth. Ow! Let the plate Sonic! Let the bitches mount also Sonic! Ugh, I can't with that guy. Uh-oh.
And then, well, actually, I'll talk about Sonic 1 for a little bit here. That one is really amazing. I forgot how good that was. I saw that thing in the theater. That came out during peak COVID era, 2020. It still made a good amount of money, despite all the restrictions it had at that time. But I really enjoy that movie. I think that thing is good. That thing is better than I remember. And, it's one of these weird CGI live action hybrids. It's got a fake Sonic the Hedgehog. Yes, kids. Sonic the Hedgehog is fake. He's made in a computer. But it has him interacting with real people, which can kind of be hit or miss. But they got that formula down because they ran it back 3 times. And that first one that I'm talking about now, it's so much fun. It's so charming. Sonic is fun. James Marsden, his real person co-star, so much fun. That's a great family flick. It's not full of stupid humor. It's got silly stuff like fart jokes and all that, but it's not overdone. I think adults can enjoy it. I think kids can enjoy it. It's also got Jim Carrey in there, who steals the show. So yeah, I really recommend Sonic the Hedgehog. Again, on Paramount Plus. And then in anticipation for Sonic 3, I rewatched Sonic 2 as well. Or rewatch, I should say. I watched that for the first time. So yes, I experienced Sonic 2 for the first time.
Hope I'm not too late.
I'm sorry, who are you?
Name's Tails.
Okay, this is what we're gonna do. Step 1, light taunting. Step 2, I have no idea. That wasn't too bad.
And I like that movie. I did not see that one in the theater. I don't know why. I remember it coming out, and I think I had plans to go see it, but I don't know. I must have just been tired that evening. But whatever. I missed it in its original run, so I'm late to the Sonic 2 party, which included his sidekick Tails as well as Knuckles. And they're a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. Another good movie. In my opinion, not as good as the first, but still a lot of fun. Really enjoyed the growing roster of Sonic and his friends there. And it's a lot of fun. So I recommend watching that one as well. But the newest one that's in theaters right now is Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
There's been a high-level security breach. And we need Team Sonic's immediate assistance. Project Shadow is far beyond anything we've ever encountered.
Shadow's story began a lot like yours, Sonic. But where you found family and friends, Shadow found only pain and loss.
All right, we got a rogue alien on the loose. How do we find it?
Start with a giant fireball?
I love it. Let's start with a giant fireball.
He is much more impressive than the Hedgehog I fought previously.
Dude, I'm standing right here.
You're a colorful bunch.
This one features Keanu Reeves, Mr. John Wick himself, as the voice of Shadow the Hedgehog, everyone's mostest favoriteest character behind Sonic. And Shadow's really cool. He's edgy, he's dark, lean and mean, drives a motorcycle, wields firearms, the Hedgehog from space has a gun, and then all that stuff. And they gave him a gun, not like an actual 9mm or anything, but they gave him like a little laser pistol for a little bit, which was fun, And I like that one too. Again, I think it's just slightly a step down from number 2. So in terms of the release of the Sonic movies, 1, 2, and 3, that's exactly how I rank them, 1, 2, and 3. I would view number 1 as like um, a 9, number 2 as an 8.5, and number 3 as an 8. None of them are bad. None of them are bad. They're all very fun, very entertaining. Again, fun for the whole family. I just thought that this third one was the weakest of the trilogy right now, which won't be a trilogy for long though, because they already announced that a fourth one is coming. Perhaps also in 2027. Now that I think about it, it's gonna be a fun year. But yeah, really enjoyed that one. That was good fun. Once again, Jim Carrey as the supervillain, Dr. Eggman, steals the show. He's just having so much fun, and I can't recommend these movies enough. Again, I keep saying how much fun they are, but that's just the truth. They're very easy, very accessible. Kids as young as 10 can enjoy it, teenagers can enjoy it, young adults can enjoy it, and full-on adults, full-on parents who have to take their kids to see the Sonic movies. There's definitely enjoyment to have there. So yeah, I recommend Sonic 1 and 2, which are on Paramount Plus, and then I also recommend Sonic 3, which is in theaters now. So yeah, hold on just a second. I'm gonna take a quick sip of beer here. Yeah, that's dark. Good, but dark. Oh, but yeah, with all that Sonic talk, let's take a quick break.
No. What? Same cop. Block him.
All right, welcome back. Keeping it with movies. I also saw a movie called A Complete Unknown.
You tramped all the way from Minnesota. Why is that? I wanted to catch a spark.
If you're traveling in the North Country Fair.
I say no one wants to hear what a kid wrote last month.
Well, I like your songs.
Where the winds hit heavy on the borderline.
Who wrote this? He did.
Remember me.
How about that Joan Baez, folks?
She's pretty. Sings pretty. Maybe a little too pretty.
Your songs are like an oil painting at the dentist's office.
You're kind of an asshole, Bob.
If you go with snowflake storm, where the rivers freeze and summer ends.
For anyone who's gonna hold your attention on stage, you have to kind of be a freak.
Yeah, you can be beautiful or you can be ugly, but you can't be plain.
To keep her from the howling winds.
When's the new album out?
Soon. 200 people in that room, and each one wants me to be somebody else. They should just let me be.
Let you be what?
Whatever it is they don't want me to be.
Which is about Bob Dylan and his rise to fame, and it stars Timothy Chalamet as the titular character. They got Mr. Dune Man himself to play Bob Dylan. And this movie had the building blocks for everything spectacular. And the movie is good. I don't mean to set it up like there's this huge but in there. But it's got James Mangold as the director. He might even did a little bit of writing on this as well. He's a great filmmaker. I mean, he's made everything from Logan to Ford versus Ferrari. And I believe he's actually scheduled to work in DC. Going back to that, I think he's scheduled to make one of those movies. Oh yeah, it's Swamp Thing. Oh yeah, if he can get that off the ground, if he can do Swamp Thing, oh yeah, we're in for a treat, baby. But yeah, he's a great filmmaker, great writer. Really enjoyed his stuff. And then you got Timothy Chalamet, like I previously mentioned. He's Mr. Dune, uh, Mr. Paul Atreides himself. Long live the fighters. You know, may my knife chip and shatter. Oh, yeah, that's peak cinema, baby. Peak cinema.
I'm happy to finally meet you. Cousin.
Cousin? Is that right? Well, you wouldn't be the first relative I've killed.
May thy knife chip and shatter.
May thy knife chip and shatter.
Yeah, we need part 3 of that. We need Dune Messiah. I'm reading Dune right now, and that is some heavy literature. Good, very nourishing for the brain, but boy, you gotta take that thing slow. And then I look forward to reading Dune Messiah eventually. I hear it's a controversial book, but I look forward to getting into that. But anyway, going back to A Complete Unknown, the Bobby Dylan biopic. I did not love this movie. I don't know if I disliked it. I thought it was okay. I give it like a floating C minus into a C plus. Because the biggest draw for me actually wasn't the fact that it's made by James Mangold and has Timothy Chalamet in there. The biggest draw for me is that it's a period piece. Well, I love period pieces, and I don't know anything about Bob Dylan. What experience I've had of him and his music has just been like accidental. It's not like I grew up with him. Even my parents didn't. They didn't. Show me Bob Dylan as I expanded my musical tastes. That was a total blind spot for me. So I went into this movie wanting to get a history lesson of Dylan. I want to know where he came from, why he's doing it, what he did, so on and so forth. And I did learn a lot about him. Like, for example, excuse me, I just burped. I did not know he was from Minnesota, so that was cool. Shout out Minnesota. Support your local dreamers. So that was cool. And I got exposed to a lot of his music through this movie because, boy, there's got to be like at least 30 songs. That's not even like an exaggeration. There has to be at least 30 different pieces of music sang throughout this movie. And it's actually Timothy Chalamet, as he's doing his Bob Dylan impersonation, he is both singing the actual lyrics and he's playing the actual guitar and doing the harmonica as well. So he's just a real class act here. But yeah, this movie really gravitated towards me because it was a period piece, and James Mangold and Timothy Chalamet being attached were just icing on the cake. But as a period piece, it's amazing. It looks like $1 million. They did a great job with the set designs and the cars and the costumes and the lingo and all that stuff. And then you got a good supporting cast as well. You got Boyd Holbrook, who Mangold has worked with previously. You got him as Johnny Cash. And Holbrook isn't in the movie a whole lot. He probably has a total of, maybe honestly, less than 5 minutes total of screen time. Maybe somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes, I'd say. He's got about 2 scenes, but he steals the show every time. He really does. So yeah, despite me saying how much I like the production value and the supporting cast with players like Holbrook as Johnny Cash. The problem with this movie is that, one, I think it's too long. They probably could have nicked off at least 20 minutes worth. But also, they did a very interesting choice with this in that they chose a period of Bob Dylan's life where, frankly, he's just kind of shown as being an asshole. Sorry for swearing and all that. But yeah, he's just kind of a jerk. He's rude and abrasive, and he does the dance with no pants with multiple women. He cheats on his relationships, and but it's and even the level of sass that he has isn't like in a lovable way. It's just more like, no, this guy is just he's just a jerk who happens to be able to sing really well, you know. So like for someone who was getting exposed to Bob Dylan in a big bad way, like I left that movie like not feeling good because I just watched this guy just kind of blaze this path through the music industry and through anyone in his way while he rose to fame, which I assume that movie is factual. I assume this movie is accurate. So I'm not knocking it for that. But again, just the presentation of the actual dude, Bob Dylan, I thought, like, he's been around for decades. Like, this is the bit that you want to show? Like, this is the chunk of time, which is like, I don't know, probably 5 years worth of time, I'd say. Like, you want to show this part where he's constantly rebelling against the system and breaking up and getting back together with multiple women and like kind of sort of stabbing his friends in the back. Like okay, I'm just saying, I did not leave the theater going, oh, find me a record store, I gotta get me some of that Bob Dylan. No, I left thinking like, what was that? Like, where's the closest bar? I need to chill out for a bit, which is what I did. I went to a bar afterwards. But the problem with this though is that I don't do this all the time. But this, if you, yes you, my faithful listener, if you're working in the film industry, you happen to be in a screening for whatever reason, and I'm also there, we're watching the same movie, perhaps you're doing research, but if you're in a theater with me, and if you ever see me check my watch, that means that I'm not just looking at the time because I'm curious. I'm looking at the time and judging how much of the film I have left. Because when you go out to the movies, you have to plan your day around it. Okay, I can't see the 2.5 hour movie today, but I can see the 2 hour one. Or if I wait till Friday, I don't have to work tomorrow, then I can see the 2.5 hour one. That's how people do it. That's how I do it. It's, because we all got busy schedules. So I knew how long this movie was. I thought it was too long, but whatever. So I knew how long it was. And throughout the movie, I'm looking at my watch and I was thinking to myself, okay, this is a 6 o'clock showing. It's 2 hours and 20-ish minutes long. With the trailers, that means that the actual film started playing at 6:15. It is now 7:30, meaning I've been here for, over an hour. I've been here for an hour and 15 minutes. That means I still have over an hour left. Are you kidding me? I did stuff like that to where I was doing mental games in my head trying to figure out how much of this I have left. I was like, okay, 40 minutes. Oh, we're still here. 25 minutes. Oh, we're still here. Like James Mangold, Timothy Chalamet. If you're listening, I know that you are. Shout out to you. I love you. You can come on the podcast anytime you like. This mic is set up to record from any direction. By the way, speaking of that, I also did some testing. I did some tweaks with my computer and the mic before I recorded. So I hope that this sounds better. I've tried to get better quality with each episode, so I hope that this sounds good. But anyway, Mangold, Chalamet, I know you're listening. This movie you made was not for me, but I'm big fans of your work. Logan, Dune, love it, can't wait, want some more of it. But if you want to come on the pod, you want to sit at my kitchen counter and drink dark beer with me and eat ketchup chips and talk to me about the Bob Dylan biopic, please expand upon this with me. Let's have a friendly discussion. and let's get down to the nitty gritty, because the movie is called A Complete Unknown, and Bob Dylan remains a complete unknown after I left the theater, except now he's a slightly more known Jerky McJerkface in my brain here. So yeah, whatever. A complete unknown. In my opinion, sadly, I hate to say it, I really do. I think you could skip it. I think you could. If you want to check it out on DVD, Netflix, VOD, whatever, you'll have to wait a bit. But even if you don't, if you never watched this movie, I think you're okay. Which is sad to say, I know. But if you're a big film fan like me, if you want to watch all of Chalamet's filmography, if you want to watch all of Mangold's filmography, if you like period pieces, check it out. But I would set your expectations a little low, because this is not a feel good movie in my opinion. So yeah, there's that. But anyway, you could classify that under something I did not like. So now we're going to transition into some stuff that I did like, and this is a little bit of a mixed bag there. Oh, tongue twister. Yeah, most of the stuff I did like, I'm going to talk about next, and that is all the books I read in 2024, which not trying to flex, even though subtle flex. But I apparently read more than I thought I did. I read, how many titles here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I read 8 books in 2024. So yeah, there we go. And I'm going to talk about them, because some of these I really enjoyed, some of these I loved, and some of these I thought were just okay. And I did these in order of when I read them. So I started the year off by revisiting a classic title that most kids should know if they went through standard grade in public school when they were younger. That is Hatchet. Hatchet, the survival story of a kid who's flying over a forest in a plane. His plane crashes. He has to survive, live off the land, fish, all that stuff, and all he has with him is a hatchet. It's a great survival story of this young kid who I think is like 14, I think. And yeah, it's a real fun book. Real good. Real page turner. I'll just say this. Not as good as I remember. But again, the last time I read it was in grade school. So it's been decades. It's been a long, long time. And as a kid, I thought this was just the bee's knees. I thought this thing was a 10 out of 10. Now, as I revisit it, it's much more of a young adult novel. Hence why I read it at the grade level I did. So instead of a 10, I give it like an 8, because it didn't grip me as much as an adult as it did as a kid. Still good. I still really appreciate it. I recommend it. It was a fun read, but it's just, again, I remember it more fondly than I experienced it the second time around. So really good. The next book I read this year is one called Supermarket, which is written by Bobby Hall, most notably known though as Logic. So yes, the rapper Logic, Mr. 1-800 guy. He wrote a book called Supermarket. And this was the second or third time I read this. Yeah, but I've read it before. And so I reread it. I actually listened to it on audiobook, and I really enjoyed it. I actually liked it more this time around than I did the first time. A really good read, really interesting, because it's like a psychological thriller. Deals with a lot of mind warping stuff, and yeah, real fun. It's set in a supermarket, but again, even though that may sound kind of boring and the title itself isn't real great, because it's just called Supermarket, it's a real fun read, a real light read. You can breeze through it pretty quick. And Logic, if you know anything about his music, anything about his tradecraft, this dude is just a creative machine. I mean, his output is off the charts. I don't know when this guy sleeps, because he's always making something. And at one point, he made a book, he wrote a novel, and I think it's a lot of fun. So I recommend Supermarket by the rapper Logic. Moving on, I also read The Firm by John Grisham. This was my first novel by Grisham, the first book I ever read out of his writing portfolio. And he's huge. which I just now learned. But I'm late to the party. But he's written a bunch of books, and he's had some of his books made into movies. The Firm in Question is a movie which stars Tom Cruise, one of the biggest movie stars ever. And I have not watched The Firm, but it's on my to-do list now that I finished the book. Really, really appreciate it. It was a good read, very tight. I describe it as like a business legal thriller, which again, that's a bad, elevator pitch. I know that thing does not jump off the page like, oh yeah, where can I get that? But I'm telling you, like, though it has to do with lawyers and all that stuff, the way Grisham writes, he makes even the mundane life of a lawyer interesting with espionage and crime and family alliances and how those get tested. This was a really gripping read. Not real tight. It's kind of thick. You kind of have to work through it chunks at a time, as I did. But it's a great slow burn. Again, not to overuse it, but I will. It's like a glass of wine, meant to be enjoyed slowly, not chugged. But The Firm, again, a legal thriller, a business thriller is how I would describe it. But really good. I really enjoyed it. I intend to watch the movie. And I hope it follows the book because the book really did set the table quite nicely. And who knows? I might even reread this at some point, because I own it. It's just sitting on my shelf, and it's a shame to just let it sit there and gather dust. So, after a couple of years, maybe in 2027, 2028, maybe I'll pick it back up because it's worth a reread. So I really appreciate The Firm by John Grisham, and I look forward to diving into the rest of his portfolio because that was a great introduction. Moving on, I read a book called Practicing the Way. This was kind of not really like a lesson plan, but this was recommended to me via my pastor, and then we both read it simultaneously, and then we talked about it. So we had discussions about it, and it's essentially teaching us how to live like God, how to live like Jesus, how to emulate Him, and it's about following a path to get deeper with God in terms of connection, and it offers just a lot of great knowledge, a lot of great insight into Scripture, into how we're supposed to live, how we're not supposed to live. If you're someone who finds the Bible daunting, who finds spirituality daunting, who finds Christianity daunting, this is a great companion piece. I think to really show us what it means to live a practical life like Jesus, because if you are someone who is religious, who follows these tenets, sometimes Scripture can lay it out very simple, very plainly. Other times it cannot. It can get incredibly confusing, and you don't know which way to turn. But this helped just expand my knowledge of Scripture, and I really appreciate it. It really offered a lot of great conversations between myself and my pastor, and I think that's a testament to good writing. Is that when you're done reading the material, you want to go talk about it. And so I recommend Practicing the Way. That's a new release, actually. That thing came out, I believe, in 2024, at the very latest 2023. So it's a relatively new book, but I really appreciate it and I recommend it highly. Moving on, I then read a book called Halo Contact Harvest, which is set in the universe of Halo, the game series that you can find on Xbox, because that's my favorite game series ever, is Halo, and that game series has companion books as well, and Contact Harvest is a prequel to everything in the Halo universe, and catalogs humanity's first meeting with the alien enemies that you fight in the games known as the Covenant. And so if you want to know how this great this universal conflict began on this one planet, check it out. It's really quite good. Not the best Halo novel I've read. There's a lot, because this is made for the fans. Like this gets real down to the nitty gritty, gets really into the minutia. It's a nerd's book, so for me it was easy reading. But like this should not be your introduction to the Halo universe. Like, you should probably play a game first to have some background knowledge of this stuff. And I don't even think this should be your first Halo book, even though it's chronologically the first, or one of the first, because it might be a prequel to the prequel. Anyway, even though this one technically is very early in the grand story, I don't think you should start here. I think you should try to find something a little more easy in the book sections. I recommend First Strike, or The Fall of Reach, or The Flood. I recommend those three novels if you want to dive into Halo literature. But as you get more accustomed to the universe and all its proper nouns and places and stuff, Contact Harvest is a real fun read, and it follows Sergeant Avery Johnson from the games. And so you have a great reference point there if you play the games and you know what I'm talking about. Real fun, really just expanded my love for the Halo universe. And yeah, if you're tired of playing the games, if they get kind of repetitive for you, I recommend checking out the series of novels. As I said, there's a lot, and I recommend you check out Contact Harvest at some point. Hold on just a sec. I'm gonna take another drink here. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Next this year, I read, or next last year, excuse me, 2024. I read This Bright Future, which is also written by Logic, but whereas Supermarket was fiction, This Bright Future is a memoir written by Bobby Hall, by Logic himself. And this catalogs his life from birth, childhood, teenage, young adult, and then into Logic, and then briefly touches on the time just before his retirement. And I use air quotes around retirement because Logic was officially retired for less than a full calendar year. So there's that. Whatever. But anyway, practicing the way. This Bright Future. If you're interested in getting deeper into the mind of Logic, if you enjoy his music, if you enjoy his writing, if you enjoy his art anyway, I recommend this. This is a very revealing read, very raw. I mean, he goes all in, as a memoir should. He doesn't pull punches. He talks about the issues with his family, with his father, with his step-parents, the drug abuse, the alcohol abuse, the own physical and mental abuse he endured as a child, and the names and words he was called. I'll just say it, he was called the N-word. And so, in the book, whether you're reading it or listening to it, that word is presented fully. It's not bleeped out. It's not written as the letter N dash word. It is that. He doesn't pull punches. So it's a very dense read in the sense that you're going to be diving into a lot of mud, just in terms of like, the darkness that one can endure throughout life. But again, you're going to appreciate that fact because it's not sugarcoating anything. If you want to know how Logic became Logic, from getting his first piece of recording information to the Grammy-winning superstar that we all know today, I recommend his memoir, This Bright Future, because he wrote this, I believe, shortly during or after his retirement. I believe is when this came out, and so I hope now that he's back, even though he never really left, but now that he's back, I hope that he actually does like a follow-up, because there's a lot left of his story to tell. But this does offer a great insight going very deep into his life. And yeah, if you're a fan of the music scene, if you like learning about music and knowing how it's made, I really recommend this one. It was really, really enjoyable. And moving on, as I previously mentioned on last week's episode, maybe even a show before for the Far Out podcast, I reread American Assassin, which is the first novel in the Mitch Rapp series, written by Vince Flynn, who sadly passed away. But again, he was Minnesota born and raised. So again, gotta support your local dreamer. I really, really enjoyed this book. This was, I think, my third time revisiting it, and I was really gripped by it. I really enjoyed it. I'm moving on to book number 2 now, which is called Kill Shot, and eventually, when I finish that one, I'll talk about that on the podcast as well. But American Assassin, I really appreciated it. It's really fun. Again, as I previously mentioned in the podcast before, in a world of James Bond, Mission Impossible, The Agency, this book found a way to tell a story that's engaging and not watered down by existing in a genre that already is very plentiful. And so I really recommend checking out American Assassin, and I recommend checking out the rest of the series as well. And the thing that actually got me into the series was I didn't know it was a book before. I remember I saw the movie trailer for American Assassin, which I'll throw up now.
Katrina, I love you so much. Will you marry me?
What happened? You gave up everything after that, didn't you, Mitch?
No, not everything.
What'd you think? You were gonna kill Mansour and wipe out his whole cell?
For starters, yeah.
I like your agenda. I know exactly what to do with you.
So what do I need to know about this guy?
He's a warrior. Best I've ever known.
Some bad things happened to you. Now you want to kill those mean old terrorists.
You think that qualifies you for my selection process?
My guess is if you and I go hand to hand, you can probably figure out inside of 20 seconds whether or not I have what it takes to make it through selection process. So, what do you say? Kill me.
You think you can slice a man's throat right here like this? Well, in the movies.
What is it you think we do here?
Kill people who need to be killed.
Out there, you're a ghost. You don't exist.
He's ready, Stan.
He's not ready. But he will be.
And I watched that trailer, and that trailer got me so interested in the movie that I started to expand my knowledge on the film itself prior to its release, and I realized, oh, there's a book. I should check that out. And then I went, oh my gosh, this is written from a Minnesota author. I go to Minnesota. I have family that lives in Minnesota. So I was like, let's go. And so I read the book, and I really liked it. And I remember enjoying the movie. I didn't love it, and not many people did as well, because this is a series of books. We only ever got one movie, which is very sad. But the book's great. Film is good. Check out both. But since we're talking about books, I recommend American Assassin. And then the last book I read this year was Star Trek's The Entropy Effect, which I previously mentioned on the podcast as well. And this is the one book I read that I did not like. This book was a difficult read because it was presented via audiobook, and just in terms of the actual recording, the way it was narrated was kind of tough to digest, though they did have some cool sound effects from the series of Star Trek itself in there. That was fun. But the actual dialogue, the narrative flow from page to page, chapter to chapter, that was rough, a bit confusing. Not a very good story as well. But the only reason why I read it was because that I'm now becoming a big Star Trek fan, a big Trekkie. And when I was going through Star Trek literature, I found that this book was written by a young adult woman who I believe at the time was 18 or 19 when she wrote this, because she was a fan who wanted to write an episode for the original TV show. And she sent it in, and someone, I don't know if she was a fan. She might have been in the industry. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, she writes the story for the show. And the showrunners think, well, we can't use this in the show. It's not that good. But this has enough Star Trek in it. It's enough Star Trek to where let's hang on to this. This might be something else somewhere else at some different time. And they did, and they let it sit for a bit, and then it got turned into a novel, and part of the cast from Star Trek read that book for the audiobook. And yeah, so it's, again, if you're someone who wants to create, if you want to write, if you want to be an author, a filmmaker, just write a story. Just get to it. Anyone can do this. Anyone can do this stuff. You just got to put pen to paper and see where it takes you. And while this girl did not get the film or TV treatment, she got the book treatment. She got her story told, and that's enough. That's enough. It's a testament to just believing in yourself. And what's that saying? Aim for the moon and you'll land among the stars, something like that. Yeah, if you aim for the moon, you'll fly through the stars, something like that. Anyway, believe in yourself, kids. Set your bar high. Believe in yourself. Chase that dream. And remember me when you're famous. When you're famous and you're talking on someone else's podcast or you're on TV and they say, how'd you get inspiration? Where did this come from? You got to say, well, I listened to this dude who was talking about ketchup chips on his podcast called the Far Out Podcast, and he got me going. I wanted to write. Give me a shout out. Give me a shout out. Anything for a click, please. But yeah. Anyway, that was my book club for the year. I read more books than I thought I did throughout the year, but I'm happy to say that I was well read. Yeah, I recommend almost all those titles except for the Entropy Effect. If you're a Star Trek fan, go for it. If you want to read it because you're a young adult and you want to get in the mindset of someone else who was a young adult who got a story told, go for it. But otherwise, it's not that good. It's not that good. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's my book club for the year. All right, moving on. We're going to go back into movies now, talk about some film news. Christopher Nolan, who is considered to be one of the best filmmakers working in the business right now, alongside names like Quentin Tarantino and Denis Villeneuve and, Steven Spielberg. Christopher Nolan is an auteur filmmaker making such films as The Prestige, Inception, Dunkirk, The Dark Knight trilogy, and most recently Oppenheimer. He announced his newest movie, which is going to be an adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey, and this movie is called The Odyssey. And wow, I did not see this coming. At one point during the reports about what his next movie could be, there were talks that it could be about vampires, about helicopter pilots. People were really throwing anything at the wall, seeing what stuck. Then out of nowhere, Universal Studios, who is helping him make this film, they threw up on their Twitter, which I'll throw up on the screen here. Yes, on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter. They tweeted out that Christopher Nolan is making The Odyssey and that it's coming out July 2027, which is crazy. That film is not that far away at all. So he has to be pretty well into production, I'd say, with that. And that movie already has an incredible cast, including Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson. No, wait, I'm sorry. I said July 2027. Kids, I'm sorry. I can't read Twitter. Where are my glasses? This is the Velma in me. My glasses. I can't do without my glasses. It's coming out July 2026. We don't got to wait that long. And that's the year of Supergirl. Okay, so yeah, we got the Odyssey coming out in 2026, which is crazy. But yeah, great cast: Tom Holland, Matt Damon, Robert Pattinson, a few others that I'm forgetting. So please forgive me. But this is gonna be crazy. This is gonna be crazy because Christopher Nolan is someone who loves to do things practically. There was the joke that for Oppenheimer, which is a movie talking about the creation of the nuclear bomb, there was talk that he was gonna detonate a live nuke to actually capture the real explosion for the film. Surely he was joking when he said that, but he's crazy enough and he has enough clout to where I bet he did call up some governments and was like, "Hey, can I at least have a small one? It's like, can I get a relatively safe nuke and just kind of drop it over this flat useless patch of desert? No? Okay. Well, anyway, he made Oppenheimer, which is an incredible film. And that thing darn near made $1 billion. I believe it's well over 980 something million right now. And with re-releases, stuff like that, he will have $1 billion film on his hand, which is great because that is not a big bang bang pew pew movie. That is a historical epic, very very heavy, very hearty in terms of storytelling and creativity, but just tremendous. And now he's diving into the Odyssey, which is entirely gonna be just nuts because like Homer was a real person and all that stuff, but like in this book, in this epic that Homer wrote, I mean, this thing has sea monsters and giant battles, and I think Medusa's involved in this stuff. I mean, this is crazy. And as I think, let me pull up a quick synopsis here of Homer's The Odyssey. Yes, Homer's The Odyssey is an epic poem traditionally attributed to the ancient Greek poet Homer. It tells the story of Odysseus, king of Ithaca, who wandered for 10 years trying to get home after the Trojan War. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then his journey is filled with mystical creatures, the wrath of the gods, and various perils. Meanwhile, his wife Penelope and son Telemachus fend off survivors vying for Penelope's hand in Ithaca's throne. I mean, this is a Greek epic, and Christopher Nolan is overdue for a Greek epic because at one point he was going to direct Troy with Brad Pitt. Yeah, so he was going to do Troy, 2004's Troy. Brad Pitt wanted him. Christopher Nolan passed, and Christopher Nolan then went on to make Batman Begins in 2005, which then led to us getting the Dark Knight trilogy. So we ended up getting a great gift in terms of that. But this guy is overdue for a Greek epic. He's had one he's had that itch for a long time now. So I'm really happy to see him getting this work. Anyone, I don't know if any filmmaker could do this kind of adaptation properly because this thing is heavy and complex and detailed. And I mean, you could give it to some slappy filmmaker and get a horrible output probably, but you give it to an auteur like Christopher Nolan. I mean, this thing is probably darn near guaranteed to make $1 billion. This thing's going to be a crowd pleaser. This thing's going to be epic. It's going to look like $1 million. I mean, this thing is going to be so much fun. I can't wait. And we only have to wait until 2026, which is just nuts. So, yeah, Christopher Nolan is going to be doing an adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey. And I can't wait. We should all be so thankful. All right. Moving on to the last thing I want to talk about for this episode, which has to do with Supergirl. And here's the problem is that I thought the Odyssey was set in 2027. I thought that was the release date. It's 2026. Before I knew that information, Supergirl was my most anticipated movie for 2026. It might be the Odyssey now. But if Supergirl is in the second spot, it's very firmly in that second spot. It could easily flip-flop back and forth. Because Supergirl is a movie coming in the DC universe under James Gunn, set in the same universe with the new Superman, with Creature Commandos, all that stuff. I'm really excited for this. I think this movie's going to be freaking tremendous. And I think that this has a high risk, high reward factor. The risk factor with the Supergirl movie is that this thing is coming out in 2026, less than a year after the Superman movie comes out this year in 2025. So the problem is that we're going to already have a super-esque hero presented to us as film fans. Okay, now, in less than a year later, we're going to have to go back and have a second bite of that apple. We're going to go back for seconds. I will do that. Give me all the superhero stuff. I will do that. Very seldomly do I not partake in superhero stuff. But our general audience is going to want to embrace a Supergirl movie when 11 months ago we just saw Superman. Are they going to go, I just saw this. This isn't different enough, you know? And then there's going to be some idiots who are like, why is it a girl? You know, and it's like, it's a different character, you buffoon. You know, it's not woke or whatever. So they have an uphill battle because they have to differentiate this from Superman enough to make it, you know, entertaining. You know, because it's like, what can Superman do? He can fly, he's super strong, he has laser eyes, and freeze breath. Okay, Supergirl can fly, super strong, laser eyes, freeze breath. How do you make it different? How do you make it different? Okay, this puts them in a creative box, which I think is great because I think that when people are in a creative box, they have to think of creative ways to get out of that box. Okay, when movies are being made, don't give them all the money. Give them small amounts of money and see how they can work their way out of that box. Okay, don't give them a blank check. Give them like 20, 50 million because that inspires creativity. What's it? The mother of innovation is necessity? Something like that. Is that the quote? I don't know. Yeah, so if they have a relatively small-ish budget and are now chasing the heels of Superman or riding the coattails of Superman, because they're the next movie up in this universe now. It's Superman in 2025, Supergirl in 2026. There's nothing in between there because the Clayface movie comes after. Okay, so these are your first two movies. You have to find ways to make these presentable and different enough to where you can attract the big audiences again. You know, you want to get a lot of that pullover from Superman into Supergirl. Okay, how do they do this? There's a lot of different ways they could do this. They can make it edgier. They can make it darker. They could do, you know, any number of things. But what's interesting is that the Superman movie coming out this year, it's pulling on a lot of comic inspirations over the decades. You got All-Star Superman and, you know, Justice League runs, and you got the previous films, and, you know, they're pulling at all this source material. James Gunn has said that Supergirl is titled Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow because it is adapting the comic run of the same name, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which is an eight-issue limited series run on Supergirl, which I actually just picked up a copy of at my local comic book store. And I'm not a big comic book reader. I love this genre of stuff. I love superheroes and sci-fi, but I'm not big on comic books. That's a very niche way to absorb this material. I have some comics in my collection, but like for every 100 superhero movies I watch, 10 of them do I feel inspired to go grab a comic of. But this one I did, because when the Supergirl movie got announced, they said, we're not pulling from 50 different things, Supergirl. No, we are doing Woman of Tomorrow. We are going to adapt this limited series, this graphic novel now that you can pick up. And this is a relatively new book. This came out in, I believe, 2023. Let me do a fact check on that real quick. I should have had that pulled up in my notes, but I didn't. Hold on. I'm solving problems on a hot mic. What's the deal with Canada and their ketchup chips? When did that come out? Hold on just a second. Supergirl comic, Woman of Tomorrow comic. Oh, 2021. Okay, so it came out in 2021, but still relatively new. Comics have been published since what? The 30s, the 40s, even before. And yeah, the fact that a relatively new story can come out, and James Gunn looks at this and says, You did Woman of Tomorrow? 8 issues? We're doing that as my movie. I mean, come on. Like, that's a huge testament to the material. I mean, if I was that author who wrote Woman of Tomorrow, I would be doing flips. Like, that's freaking crazy. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to this. I think that this could be something really, really special, because also with Supergirl, one way that previous writers have differentiated themselves from Superman is that technically in some iterations, I'm sorry, I'm looking up stuff while I'm talking again. In some iterations, she's actually technically stronger than Superman, because in some versions, while Superman came to Earth and was born and raised, Supergirl survived on a chunk of Krypton after the planet exploded, And like because of her growing up technically as part of her natural home planet, and the fact that that chunk of Krypton got flung closer to the sun, like she's been able to absorb more radiation. So in some versions, she's stronger, more durable, has more abilities. So that could be something really interesting. The fact that they might try to differentiate her from Superman, in that respect, in terms of her overall abilities. I want to pull up the director. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. I want to pull up the director of the film because I recognize his name. Yes, okay, here we go. His name is Greg Gillespie. Gillespie. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. But he's made a bunch of stuff that I really, really enjoyed here. Let me pull up his filmography. Come on, computer. You can do it. But yeah, Supergirl, I think, has tremendous upside. I think you can do a lot of great fun things with that. And again, I feel that they're creatively in a box because they're coming 1 year after a Superman movie. They have to make the character different as well. Okay, so finally got it pulled up now. Okay, so Greg Gillespie, he's made some movies that I've really enjoyed. Some of them I haven't seen, but have been received really well. Others I have seen. Okay, so he did a movie called $1 Million Arm, which starred John Hamm under Disney. That's I believe that's a baseball movie. Yeah, has to do with baseball pitchers. I love baseball, so that's on my to-do list. And then he made a movie that I really enjoyed. This one came and went, flash in the pan, didn't receive a lot of love, called The Finest Hours, also with Disney, which stars Chris Pine, and it tells the story about a Coast Guard crew having to go out and save a vessel that's in distress, having to save the crew during a winter storm. And that movie is tremendous. That's on Disney Plus. I will die on that hill. I don't think people like it very much. It died at the box office. No one talks about it now after the fact. And that thing came out in 2020, that thing came out in 2016. So it's 9 years old now. No one talks about it, but they should. The movie's tremendous. Finest Hours, which I actually rewatched this year or last year in 2024. I should keep forgetting that. That movie's good. I really enjoyed it. He made a movie called I, Tonya, which stars Margot Robbie. Stars Margot Robbie, who's Harley Quinn. Stars her as as a famous ice skater, and that movie was good. I didn't see that one. I heard it was good because it's a biopic, but that got some awards consideration there, so people really enjoyed that. He directed the 2021 film Cruella, which starred Emma Stone from shout out La La Land as the titular character of Cruella, the villain from 101 Dalmatians. Did a live action adaptation of Cruella, which again I did not see. I heard it was good. It's getting a sequel. I think he's coming back. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, that movie was received really well. And then a movie I did see recently that I didn't know he did, but I enjoyed, was a film called Dumb Money. And this movie has to do with the story of the inflation of the AMC movie theater stock, known as the meme stock, to throw the stock market into unbalance, to inflate things and deflate others. So that big national story about the AMC stock going crazy, they made a movie about that called Dumb Money. Kids, I'm receiving a phone call from a number I don't have saved to my phone, so I'm gonna ignore that. Anyway, Dumb Money came out in 2023. No, that's not the AMC stock. That's the GameStop stock. Sorry, I got movies on the brain. So I'm thinking of theaters. No, it has to do with GameStop, the game stock. It has to do with that stuff. So again, the story of that stock getting manipulated, that happened in 2021. That got adapted, and I really enjoyed it. I saw that movie on a whim. I just wanted to go to the theater, and it was playing at the time I was in town, so I really enjoyed that. And now he's directing Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So I've only seen 2 of the movies he's made, The Finest Hours and Dumb Money. Both I enjoyed, so he's 2 out of 2 for me. However, he's made $1 Million Arm, Finest Hours, I, Tonya, Cruella, Dumb Money. all those films were really well received, whether critically or financially. So, yeah, I think that this guy is going to be fantastic. Or I think he's going to make a fantastic movie. I think he's got a real good resume here. He's worked with huge stars on big projects, and the fact that he's given Supergirl, he's adapting Woman of Tomorrow, is crazy. It is interesting though too that the last iteration of Supergirl we had was actually on TV, set in the Arrow universe series of TV shows, and that was played by, what's her name? Melissa Benoist? I think that's her name. Yes, it is. Melissa Benoist. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing her name. She had her own TV series. That series ran for 6 seasons, which is crazy. The fact that you did Supergirl on TV, crazy. I haven't seen a lot of that series. I think I've seen a total of 5 episodes, but I've really enjoyed it. She's fun and delightful in the role. She's very charming, very endearing. So there's a section of the fandom that has grown up with a Supergirl for years on TV. Now you're gonna transition that back into film. I think that presents a lot of just goodness. It's gonna be a little tough going from TV to film, because that's always tough going from film to TV. Like The Mandalorian, Star Wars, that's going from TV to film. Okay, good luck. They don't have as much heavy lifting because they got a freaking Baby Yoda. So that little green machine can print green money all day long. But Supergirl, the last iteration we had of her was in the TV show. Well, actually, you know what I just realized? I'm wrong. Sorry, kids. I'm kind of rambling here at the very end here because I'm Googling. It's like the equivalent of texting and driving. Don't Google and podcast. Supergirl was actually in the Flash movie. There was a version of her in the Flash movie by Andy Muschietti. That's interesting. We actually had a Supergirl after Melissa Benoist, because her series ended, I believe, in 2020. We got the Flash in 2022. Now we're getting another different Supergirl in 2026. The Flash's Supergirl was fine. Not as charming, not as soft-spoken as Melissa Benoist, the TV one. Not as fun, I'll just say that. But good. She had a good suit. I enjoyed watching her flying around, beating up General Zod. That was fun. Yeah, so I think we're overdue for another good adaptation of Supergirl. And as I've said throughout the last 10-ish minutes I've been talking, they are kind of in a creative corner. Again, coming off a TV show, coming off a former film adaptation, which The Flash was not that good. Again, chasing the movie Superman, set just 11 years apart. 11 months apart. I think this beer is going straight to my brainstem. Because again, Superman comes out in July 2025. Supergirl comes out in June 2026. You have 11 months there. You got a lot to do. But if they could pull it off, this thing is going to be a grand slam movie. And I'm really looking forward to it. And as I previously mentioned, I have the comic run of Woman of Tomorrow here. And as I mentioned, I'm not a big comic guy anymore. So I'm very particular about what I pick up. But I love the way this is drawn. I think it's beautiful. I read the prologue the night before I'm recording this, and just of the prologue, I really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to diving in. And I've heard that this story here, Woman of Tomorrow, is really good. And if it is, I think we're in for a real treat with the new Supergirl movie. So I have no complaints with that one. Is there something I'm forgetting? Oh, there is. Kids, I'm sorry. I forgot something. Again, I'm rambling. I'm Googling. I'm drinking. I'm eating ketchup chips. And then the mic is hot. I'm sorry. The other thing I forgot about Supergirl, Jason Momoa, former Aquaman himself, has been cast in that movie as the villain Lobo. You don't know who Lobo is? I don't either, and I'm a super nerd. But he was Aquaman, dang it.
I've waited a long time for this. supposed to know who you are? I scavenged the high seas. You're the Aquaman. We were bound to meet at some point. Let's not make it a habit.
He was a good Aquaman. He made Aquaman cool in the former DC slate of movies. Now he's coming back into the new slate as the supervillain Lobo. And Jason Momoa is real fun. He's a class talent by everything I've read in the tabloids. He's a good guy. All that stuff. He's just a big rock star, huge, great hair, and he's gonna play the villain in the Supergirl movie. So again, he's from the old regime of DC films, which were not that great because again it included The Flash. But now he's coming back under the new administration. James Gunn said, "Hey, you were a good Aquaman. We're gonna forget all that, and you're a good actor. Come back. Come and play with the toys some more. Be this character named Lobo. Fight Supergirl in the Supergirl movie." Which maybe Lobo is in Woman of Tomorrow, the comic run. But I'll let you know because once I finish reading this, I'll talk about the comic. I forgot to mention that Jason Momoa is going to be the villain in Supergirl. If you like him, you don't have to wait long to get a piece of his action as a supervillain. He's coming back to the comic superhero movie scene in a big bad way, literally. So I can't wait. He was real fun as Aquaman. He's really fun just in terms of talent. And I think the Supergirl movie is going to be tremendous. So now kids, now I'm done. And I have forgot nothing else. Let me check my notes one last time. Going so strong here, at first, and then I started to ramble. I made it all the way through all my topics until this last one. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for checking it out. Really appreciate it. I hope you had a great New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Welcome to 2025. And yes, kids, this is going to be your year. All right. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.